Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. In this video I'm going to be going over the Pick Your Poison choice crate. I've had some requests just to look into the crate and just talk about which characters I think are the best to pick up in terms of their usability, but also I will talk about picking up particular characters or not picking up particular characters based on their accessibility, because some of them, particularly one of them, is extremely easy to come by compared to the rest. So I would generally avoid it. I am of course talking about the Pick Your Poison login calendar here, and you can see on day 7 and day 14 we do get a choice crate where you can choose one of 7 characters. These 1,000 shards of Clementine, Brutus and Mythic Rick do represent basically one version of that character, but we'll break down other rewards that you can get those shards a bit later. But it's basically one copy of each of these characters. Now you can look at it pretty much that there are 3 defense team characters here, 3 attack team characters here, and 1 hybrid character here. The 3 defense characters are going to be Noor, Tyrese 2000 and Off Duty Rick. These are characters that are 99% of the time going to be used on a defense team. The attack team characters are Michelle, Clementine and Brutus. These characters, compared to the defense team characters, are not top tier attack team characters, whereas the defense team characters are top tier defense team characters. And then lastly we have Mythic Rick 2000 in the bottom right hand corner, who could be used on attack and defense. He's very tanky, but he's also got a nice signature move, Revive, and he's a command, so obviously on an attack team he has some usability. He's not the best command for an attack team, but he is a command, and commands are generally better on attack teams. So we'll go through each character one by one, just quickly going over which one I think is the best, here. And I honestly think the best character that you can pick up is the first one. If you don't have the 2 copies of Noor, getting 2 copies of Noor and getting her to grade 5 is extremely important. She can basically get a bit of her passives to proc to give her bonus HP and her team off of turn 1, so you can have a nice bit of overheal straight away. I'd say this is one of the more important characters in this group of characters to get to a minimum of grade 5. If you already have a grade 5 or limit break 1, get them up to limit break 2 or limit break 3, get as much stats on this character as possible, unlock as many of the passes as possible. This is definitely the best character in this crate. It should be the instant pickup if you don't already have her maxed out. Next one is going to be Michelle, and I'd say she's kind of nice. She's a bit niche. One of her best usages is to be used with Whisperers, and unfortunately the Whisperers are kind of out of date because one of her mythic abilities, you can see the last one, is whenever an enemy is decapped, 100% chance all Whisperers Allegiance teammates get 100% of their max AP. Now we did have a bit of a boost to a character recently, where Beta is now actually pretty legit. Mike has always been pretty good for an attack team support character. They just need, I think, one more character, like a heavy damage dealer, and it'll basically be a legitimate team, and you could probably put someone like Nora in that team to get a first turn rush off to guarantee a decap, because you have Beta and potentially this new character could be a decap too. Maybe Lydia 2.0 in the Whisperers Allegiance would be really, really sick in my opinion. But for now, not that amazing. She did have her little time in the sun when the Rick teams first came out. Her infection for the 500% and was actually pretty good. And I think she can infect medics or something like that off of turn 1, where she all enemies with the medic roll get 100% infection for 2 turns at the start of each wave. So she has some kind of usability, but I think maybe John's come in and taken over from Michelle, and he's much more recent. I think more people will probably have more copies, especially if you haven't been, playing for a huge amount of time recently. So Michelle's good, but I would not say she's the second best pick at all. I'd say she's probably down in 5th, She's not that important, but it is what it is. Next up we have Clementine shards. And if I click the eye, I can't actually go to Clementine. So we're going to have to just jump to Clementine elsewhere. And here she is, and you can check her out in the Ascension Tower if you want to see how she works, her skills, and so on and so forth. I, of course, have done preview videos on all of these characters if you really want to, find out how each character works. Now, Clementine has pretty decent usability in various parts of the game. She's easily, by a mile, the best roadmap leader when it comes to clearing walkers, as long as you use her with a Telltale team. I'm talking about one of the easiest teams to just blitz through the hardest roadmaps. People who struggle with these roadmaps will absolutely destroy. Obviously, she has to be quite high grade to get the best bonuses because she gives all Telltale characters crit at the beginning of the wave. The last one, where the first 3 turns of combat, Telltale characters get 100% critical, and this works with, you know, Kenny's multi-hit, the signature move of Duck, and like the multi-hit of Lily. So like you can get so many crits off, and walkers are just going to get absolutely destroyed, and it's of each wave. So when the next wave comes in, same thing will happen. She's also pretty good in faction assault. I use her with a few of the Telltale characters against Governor, and I just use Rhodey as the last character, and it works really, really nicely. Because they managed to take out that helicopter really quickly because they've got so many multi-hits, quite a lot of crit, so on and so forth. So you can get onto the boss nice and quick. When it comes to her usability in just general like raids and war situation, she isn't as amazing. I think her control is really good, but she kind of can get countered by just one mod. If the defense while stunned mod is on the defense team, then you're in a lot of trouble. Unless you're not trying to use percentage damage, then it's not a problem. Or you have characters that get bonus attack stat when a character is stunned. That could work. But generally speaking, there are better leaders. Trader kind of just like pips her when it comes to being an attack leader, honestly. So Clementine's pretty good, but I would say she's probably a little bit better than Michelle in terms of usability in most of the game, but nowhere near as good as Nora at the moment. Next up, we have Tyrese 2000, who is easily a premier defense leader. He works well with other top tier characters like Jesus 2000 and Martinez 2000. So obviously those work together. You can potentially use Carl 2000 in that team as well, but I think people use Carl in different teams now just because he's strong and he kind of has decent synergy with some of the strong defenses that are out there. But very good character. He was in the battle pass as well. But he's a character, obviously, like Noor, where they haven't given extra copies of this character out. So he's very hard to come by. The first 4 characters that we've actually previewed so far are really hard to come by. The only way you can get these characters so far is if they're doing what they're doing right now, which is giving out crates to actually get them. There's no like gold mythic wheel. There's no wheels to get these characters on. These are harder to get than like ultras. Like ultra characters come back in the ultra wheel, and you can pull for them, whereas these characters, it's just basically down to how often Scopely are just going to decide, hey, we're going to run an event for this particular trace crate. But I think Tyrese is top tier. I would say out of the group of characters here, he's probably in the top 3, because, like I said, the most powerful characters here are the defense team characters. And that last defense team character that's extremely powerful is going to be Off-Duty Rick. Now, I would say you probably see Off-Duty Rick more than any of the other characters just because he's going to be a defense team leader on most of these teams. He was a free-to-play, completely free-to-play character, whereas the other ones were battle pass characters. So you're probably going to come up against an Off-Duty Rick in every single war attack that you do. He has a really nice setup where he reduces, you know, the chance that people will get critical hits. And this is really important against kind of multi-hit metas that were happening before. Whereas now, there's a lot of characters that can bypass this. For instance, Sophia can bypass the fact that it's critical hit resistance because she can't get crits, so she relies on pure damage. But Rick is a very good character. I'd say he's probably like 3rd place in terms of Noor being 1st, Tyrese being 2nd, and then Off-Duty Rick being 3rd. Just because he is obviously more free-to-play, he's not going to be as good as the other characters in general. But also because most people have probably got this guy up to a reasonable tier already. But if you have the other characters already, you could potentially prioritize Rick over Tyrese to like just make one of your teams fully LB3. This isn't a bad choice to go for. This does seem like quite a defense team based crate, but honestly quite a lot of the inaccessible characters are better on the defense team rather than the attack team. And I think that was because a lot of these characters happened to come out around the time when we needed 3 defenses for war, so they seemed to make the defense team characters a bit more viable to go for when it came to battle passes and when it came to events. Now, the last 2 characters are going to be more shard characters, so I have to jump across to a different screen. But first up, we have Brutus. And Brutus is a really cool character. Obviously, he is a bear, so he's going to be really sick when it comes to being able to use him on an attack team. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a top tier character. He has his usabilities. If there is a very tough based defense team, he has pretty decent usability there. I did use him on a roadmap recently where I had to normalize Vance early on in the fight, and I used him and Heng Yen together. It was actually pretty nice. The damage potential of Brutus is really high if you have Scotsman lead, but Scotsman himself is not that great. The fact that he's got Waste Not 2, which is the same as Heng Yen, he has pretty high potential. His rush can kill an entire team, but generally speaking, someone on that defense team is going to have payback, something like that. So it's very hard to utilize that to a high level, in my opinion. So I kind of put this guy probably around the same as Michelle or behind Michelle. They're kind of like in 5th and 6th between themselves in this crate, but not as bad as the last character in this crate, which is going to be Rick. So Rick is definitely the worst character to pick up in this crate. The only reason you should pick up Rick is if he's the only character that you actually need. If you need any other character, you should go for them instead. And the reason I say this is because Rick is completely accessible by actually just playing the game and getting other characters. If you max out a Skybound X1 character to limit break 3, you can basically go to the museum and get rewarded for doing so. It does not remove that character because there's no red exclamation mark. Only the red exclamation mark actually removes the character. And you get rewarded with 1,000 Rick shards, and you'll be rewarded with one version of that character when you hand it in. It's pretty much as simple as that. Rick is a decent character, but he's just very easy to come by compared to the other ones, like I've already said. So he's definitely the worst character to pick up in here, and I'd only pick him up if he was the only one that you actually needed. Now, some of you may have all of those characters already, and if you do, you can hand in some of the shards for gold mythic tokens. I know that's not really much of a reward, but you can get 50,000 gold mythic tokens for getting 1,000 Clementine shards. If you've already done this, I think you might be able to do the same for Brutus or Rick, but I'm not sure. But Clementine, I think, is definitely the best one to go for. You can get, like I say, 50,000 gold medals back for the 1,000 shards in the crate. Otherwise, if you've got all of them and you've handed these ones in enough times already, I think the only thing you can really do is get a character and sell it and get 1 gold bit. So that's it, my thoughts on the Pick Your Poison choice crate. Just to like break it down again, I would say Noor is going to be first, Tyrese and Off-Duty Rick are going to be in 2nd and 3rd, pretty close. Obviously it's down to you which one you want to choose between them. Clementine would be in 4th, Michelle and Brutus would be in that 5th and 6th spot, and Rick would be way down in 7th. Only picking him up if you have every other character here already. And even then, you may want to just go for gold mythic tokens over getting him because you know you're eventually going to get him through gameplay. Tell me which character you decided to pick up out of this crate. Myself, I'm going for 2 copies of Tyrese 2000 because he's the only one I don't have at LB3. Thank you very much for tuning into this video though, guys. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.